Hello and welcome to Jessie Bear Book Club. Today we are getting back to our roots and reviewing a wildcards book, and not just any wildcards book. We are beginning to review the British arc, Knaves over Queens, number 27 in the series. I felt like I had been away from this series for so long that I needed a fresh look at it again, so I'm beginning at a new arc. Back to the beginning. Let's see what happens. The book had an interesting opening on the Queen Mary with the elephant princess and the wildcard spores attacking everyone. I immediately liked Kenneth Foxworthy, aka Captain Flint. I was very upset when Captain Flint was buried alive. Honestly, that is my worst fear. I also really enjoyed Captain Flint's historical roots for the manifestation of his wildcard. Seeing Wildcard Day from a different perspective was brilliant. I especially enjoyed the very Britishness of the whole thing. Then we get the second chapter, The Coming of the Crow, about a young Irish girl exposed to the wildcard virus who believes she is the reincarnation of the Irish goddess of battle, Bibe. I immediately fell in love with this clearly evil character. She was so weirdly complex, and I'm not just saying that as an Irish girl. The idea of a wild card victim believing they are a god is believable. We have seen it before with T. Malice and with the living gods in Egypt. The third chapter was all about Spring-Heeled Jack, and I loved the storyline, especially when Captain Flint came back to life and was eating cheese-flavoured dirt. I really loved cheese, especially Stilton, so this spoke to me. I did not love the Cray twins storyline. There is so much out there about the Cray twins, and I just didn't really like it. The idea of Ronnie having an ace though was pretty cool, as was giving Mick Jagger an ace. The Mick Jagger ace gave me American Werewolf in London vibes, especially when he transformed. The chapter was okay, but I felt like Caroline Spector, who wrote it, was trying overly hard to be a Londoner, and it came across that she was trying. Does that make sense to anybody else? I also enjoyed Charlie's storyline, uncovering the plot to kill Churchill, but it was a little long-winded and didn't really go anywhere. As for Alan, aka Mole Man, and Jenny Three Arms storyline, I enjoyed it. It felt more realistically British than some of the other storylines, but I completely loathed Jenny for using naive Alan. I also really liked the sound of Pussyface's ace. It was amazing. I loved the claws. I hope Alan turns up again at some point in another story, perhaps on a jewel heist. If I were him, I would build myself the biggest underground cavern and fill it with all the amazing things I stole and live there. Like the Mole King from Legend. Rory's story about the Falklands War was very good and very human. I don't really like modern war stories, but Rory's was so human, you just got into it. You really experienced everything with him, from his first battle until the last. Also, I really want to hear more about the lion in Belfast during the 70s. Rory's ace was pretty cool, not really my thing, but he seemed like a really nice guy, so hope he turns up again, and I'm sure the lion's gonna turn up. Roger and the Twisted Fists was interesting because we know very little about the Twisted Fists. Of course, I have jumped some books ahead, so maybe I missed a little, but getting to meet the Black Dog finally was brilliant. And even though Roger is dull, I can't help but hope that the Green Man is going to be more interesting. Then Bibe is back, and Bibe is a vibe. And not just because she lives in Belfast and has black hair with me. I really love how much she truly believes she is a goddess. I really enjoyed her description of the city as well, because she got the geography right, and I also really loved the idea of the Joker Town being on Rathlin Island. It is such a remote, beautiful place. I was swimming off there with wild dolphins in the summer, and I know two of the guys who organised the Rath Island rave, so I just loved that idea. The whole Billy love story interest wasn't really my thing, but I did like the idea of her being hunted by Captain Flint. I mean, the nemesis thing, oh, they just play off each other so well. The second Roger chapter was much better than the first because he is now head of the UK's Twisted Fists, and you get to see Herne the Huntsman again, which I lived for. I completely adored the hunt scene. Rocks girl for life. I would 100% join a hunt. Roger gets far more interesting as the chapter goes on, especially when he is in Belfast, when Churchill is killed, and the whole fiasco at his funeral. I was a bit annoyed though, because you know these things are Bibes doing, and I would have rather had her perspective than Roger's. But Roger is getting better, and his character development in his scene with his daughter, where he fights the lion and officially becomes Green Man, embracing his position as head of the Twisted Fists in the UK, it was good. It was really good. As for Noel Matthews, created by Melinda M. Snodcraft, I disliked him immediately. I disliked his idea to trick the princess, and I disliked his general attitude, and I was glad to be proven right when he kills for the first time and enjoys it. Interesting chapter, but horrible character. He reminds me of Blaze without the traumatic childhood to blame. It's very well written, but I just dislike Noel a lot. I mean, he makes my skin crawl. Then there is poor Cray, who is suffering nothing less than child abuse for financial gain. I really loved this chapter, even though it was hard to read at times. I figured out something was dodgy the whole time. The scene with the kitten nearly broke me. I also knew something was up when the human figures had their faces hidden. I hope we get to see more of Cray, aka Stone Maiden, but to be honest, I would have chosen the name Medusa if I were her. I think Carrie's storyline is probably going on in some form all over the wildcards world, and I got serious Chrysalis storyline similarities coming through. I really hope Carrie becomes a recurring character and we get to see Stone Maiden in the Silver Helix. She was just so nice. But we move from sad to downright painful. Angela's storyline was tragic, brilliant, moving, and kind, but tragic. The scene at the end where she helps Betty have a good death and she says goodbye to her only real friend was something so tragic and beautiful it hurt. I like Angela and her kindness. She reminds me of Bloat in many ways because of her own form's limitations. I really hope we get to see more of her. Billy's death in Bibe's last chapter of the book was good, and I look forward to more Bibe and the peace process in the next book. I really enjoyed this book, and I am glad to be back on a wildcards kick. But I had one small problem with the book, and that is simply that the timeline moves way too fast. From 1945 to 2017 in one book. I would have rather eked it out and seen a lot more Silver Helix stuff. I also spent the whole book wanting Tachyon and Queen Margaret to meet. I think that it would have been so interesting. A royal and a Tahitian royal. Ooh, they could have rubbed each other up the wrong way. I would have loved it. I don't want an affair or anything, but a brief meeting and a clash of the two cultures. I would have been into that. Anybody out there agree with me? I give this book a solid 8 out of 10. It is a great addition to the wildcards world and a great book to help me get back into the wildcards series after a 6-month absence. Roll on 3 Kings. Remember to like, comment and subscribe to this channel and leave your thoughts on the wildcards world down below.